Hi, welcome everybody to the Dr. Keith Darrow podcast. I am so excited today to have Dr. Dusty Jessen on the program with me. Everybody knows Dusty, right? Maybe actually, I think they know the dog more than they even know Dusty. I know that I've seen this dog now for, what's it been, about 10 years?
It was 2013. So yeah,
okay. All right. We're getting close. But I remember early on seeing the book, and this is actually, in full disclosure, this is the first time Dr. Dusty and I have even had a conversation. So I'm really excited about this. I know that people who listen to this podcast have a lot to learn from you. You are a voice of reason, I think, amongst all the noise in our field. And you have done an excellent job at pushing us in the right direction and focusing on hearing healthcare, not just something that we may happen to sell. So thank you for all you do. And thank you for agreeing to come on today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for your nice words.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, if we go back in time, and you'll notice I have my little tuning fork behind me. The reason it's back there, it's the shape of a Y. At least when I look at it, that's what I see. And so really one of the first questions that I ask anybody who comes on the show is why? Tell me a little bit more about your why you wrote the book, why you chose audiology. I mean, you can go back as far as you want, but why do you get out of bed every day and do the amazing stuff that you do?
Okay, good question. So my grandmother, actually my step grandmother, was one of the first people to be bilaterally implanted. And that happened when she joined our family after my grandmother passed, and then my grandpa got remarried when I was in middle school. So as a middle school student, I was around when we would go to Iowa for family gatherings, and I got to be really good friends with my new step grandma. She was a really special lady. We were pen pals. We wrote letters back and forth. And when we would go to family gatherings for holidays and things, I witnessed her hearing loss, and I witnessed her learning or kind of teaching us how, as family members, to help her cope with her hearing loss. I was fascinated by her cochlear implants. I thought it was amazing that she could hear through a magnet on her head. That's what I thought she was doing at the time. And I was always
had robot hearing, right?
Yeah, exactly. But looking back now, I think what I was most impressed with is the fact that she orchestrated our gatherings so that she could communicate with all of the family members. So she would take each grandchild to another room and have, some one-on-one time with us because she knew she couldn't hear us when we were all in the big group. So that was kind of my first experience with understanding that a device couldn't fix all of the issues, and that there was some modifications that had to be made and things we had to do as the family members and things she had to do as the person who had hearing loss. So that was first. And then I did go into the field of audiology, and in grad school.
So this was before. Oh, that's right. Well, you said, it was when you were much younger. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
School, actually. So I didn't really know that I wanted to be an audiologist at that point, but I was.
That's fair.
So roundabout, I ended up in grad school, and in the process, I was testing my mom just because we had to get enough testing hours in. And lo and behold, my mom had a severe unilateral loss that she just hadn't really paid that much attention to. We always used to just joke with her, like, oh, turn up your bell tone, like rude. But now I realize how rude we were about it, but we didn't. We don't know. And we just thought she wasn't.
That's not one of the tips in the book.
It is not.
No, just turn it up.
Yeah, exactly. So, and she didn't have hearing aids. So I was the one to first diagnose her.
Okay.
She was worried about an acoustic neuroma, so she got tested. Turns out she has vascular loops. So her hearing loss has been progressive. And so I have had the experience of being the other person. So she's got hearing loss. She and I are like sisters. We're very close. We talk all the time. When they lived nearby, we got together all the time. We traveled together. And I am the person who is really dealing with her hearing loss in various situations, in the hotel, while on a bus, whatever,
Sure.
and realizing how important it is for me to be a good communicator with her. And she's very forward about reminding me if I'm not, like if I'm in the bathroom and she's in the other part of the hotel room and I try to talk to her, she gets on my case like, "Hey, audiologist daughter, I can't hear you."
Shouldn't you know better? Didn't you write a book about not doing that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's been, so really from grad school on, I've experienced all the need for good communication beyond hearing aids. Of course, she's always had the best hearing aids because I can get them for her, but
Sure.
it doesn't fix everything. And so,
No.
of course, we all realize that with our own patients, but it's been very impactful that I've experienced it firsthand with her as well. And then I will say I was very influenced by Dr. Robert Sweeto, and
Right.
AAA was in Denver. I think it was 2006 or 2007. I heard him do a talk on auditory rehab, oral rehab, and counseling. And I was just like, this is it. This is our reason for being. This is what an audiologist should do. I enjoyed that talk more than any hearing aid talk I'd ever been to. And I knew then that that's where I wanted my focus to be.
So how do you get from there? So we have a lot of clients that we work with, and you clearly understand the importance of taking that story and taking everything you know and putting it in a book. What has that journey been like for you? If, go back 10 years, I would imagine sometime around 2011 or 2012, you had this idea. What was that like, trying to get from thought to a finished product?
Mm-hmm. So I had handouts that I had created. I really do like writing things. And so I had put together a packet of various handouts. One handout was, just photocopied. I had little clip art, like Microsoft Word clip art in there.
Yep.
Just to try to make it fun. And I photocopied them on different colors of paper, doing all I could to try to make it something that my patients would want to comply with and actually read. So I had a handout for the listener and a handout for the speaker and a handout for environmental modifications. And these were things that I had gotten from, various handouts that are out there.
Sure.
And there's so many resources for communication strategies out there. And so I had just compiled my own list. And what I found was that even though I made it on fancy colored paper, my patients weren't reading it. They would bring back their packet, I'd open it, and I could tell it hadn't even been thumbed through because it was
not even touched. Yep.
Not even touched. So I was like, okay, this there has to be a better way to go about this. And so I happened to be in a networking group at the time, and there was a designer in there, and in her commercial that she'd give every week, she said that she can help someone create an iBook. So this is when Apple had their iBooks out, and I was
oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah. You threw me for a loop there, but yes, okay. Yeah. The iBook. Yep.
iBooks, and I don't even know if it's such a thing anymore. I think it was maybe the one Apple product that didn't really fly, but sure. Anyway, so I hired her, and she helped me, put my ideas, my handouts into. Well, I kind of wrote them into a book format, and then she helped me coalesce it into an iBook. And then later I had someone who said, oh, I can actually do print design. And so she helped me transfer that iBook into a print book. So really having the right people in my life at that time that I needed to do the formatting. And then I started researching on self-publishing because I knew I didn't need a publisher for a little handbook like that. So I bought the ISBN numbers online, and I did have, I read a book about how to publish your own book. And so I kind of, the resources are out there. And then I had a good person to walk me through and help me format it. And at the very beginning, I was just taking my little book and schlepping it around to audiologists around Denver and being like, hey, do you think you might use this in your clinic? And then, and doing talks at our conferences about the importance of education for our patients. And I'd slip my, a little plug in for the book at those talks, and it just kind of.
It's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think you've really, you hit upon the principle, I think, without saying it. So I want to say it to the audience as clearly as I can state it. People don't throw away books. You hand them a book, they tend to read it. You and I may not completely understand the psychology of that because, as you said, almost all of it was in the handouts. But there's something about being handed a book. And somebody had to teach me this lesson a few years ago. My own coach, the person that I work with, who was like, Keith, it doesn't matter how many pamphlets you make, how much you print out. There's something about the feel, the texture, the trust and authority that is gained from having a book. And I would imagine once you started handing it out compared to the handouts, what was the response like from your patients?
The compliance skyrocketed. I knew that they were reading it. They thought it was cute. They liked the dog. I did keep the dog as like the image because I knew that it could be, sure, it's timeless. You know, you can give it to any age group and they're still going to appreciate it. So I spent a lot of money on all the images of my kids, named him Henry, the healthy hearing hound. So I spent a lot of money on images of Henry. And
so he's not your dog?
Not my dog. No, he is.
Okay. Okay. I kind of assumed the whole time that was your dog.
Not my dog. I love dogs and we foster dogs and I've had almost 70 foster dogs over the last 5 to 6 years.
Amazing.
So I could have used any one of those dogs, but I'm not a photographer and I don't know how to make them be in cute little.
No. I get it. I get that part. That was going to be, when I was thinking about what questions do I ask, it was, who's the dog? How did you get it to do all these pictures? But it makes more sense now.
I would imagine that Henry's photographer is living the high life at this point, considering how much money people spend on the pictures of this little dog, because he's an image that's out there doing a lot of
sure
real estate pictures and, you know, construction and whatnot. But yeah, that's so.
I know what I've experienced in terms of compliance. What I've experienced is, and it amazed me because I thought I had every handout. I wrote down the questions to all the answers that people I knew were going to ask. I had them ready for them. And I love your analogy of once they brought it back, you could just tell it wasn't touched. You can tell the pages weren't open. Nothing happened to what you gave them. But as soon as the book got out there, it was, and I'm sure you experienced this also, people come back, highlights, their dog earring, they're doing something to mark the page, they're circling, they're asking questions, they put little tags to make sure to turn to page 48 and ask you such and such a question. So I would imagine you experience that also.
I do for the more motivated patients. I mean, there's still, you know, in all honesty, there's still patients that will come back and I'll be like, did you read the book? And they're like, no, I didn't get around to it, or I started it. But that's definitely fewer now. More of them like, yep, I read it. And I was so excited. I let my wife read it because half of the book is written for the spouse.
Exactly.
I'm so happy to finally have something that looks official that tells their spouse that they're part of the problem.
Yes. And perhaps the flip side of the coin, part of the solution.
Yes, I should be more positive about it. And it gives them very specific tips about how to be part of the solution.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have to let our patients know your hearing loss is it's impacting everybody around you. And so they have to be part of the process. They have to be part of the testing process, the treatment process, the rehabilitative process. And I love that your book really speaks directly to them. So that's excellent. And actually you brought up, you said more recently. And so one of the things I was thinking was, I'm sure you would agree, the technology we're using today to treat hearing loss it almost doesn't even seem fair to compare it to 2014 or 2015. It's like comparing apples and screwdrivers. It's really night and day what has happened. Are you finding the book to be less impactful, more people are reading it, or more people are not because maybe the technology is doing what it was always supposed to, but couldn't? What's that been like in just the last couple of years?
I would say it's probably more important as technology progresses, because as people read about how amazing these devices are, their expectations just skyrocket. And
Great point.
so they are still just, I hate to say just amplifiers, but in a noisy restaurant with so much sound, they really, yes, they're a little bit better than the noise reduction and everything of 10 years ago, but it's still an overwhelming place to hear, even for people who have normal hearing. So those expectations, they think they've got these super devices on their ears, and they do, they're great, but they're not going to make you have better than normal hearing. And so I think the expectations are just as important, and setting up the environmental modifications are just as important, if not more so. Yeah.
As you've been on this journey, and I will certainly come back to how people out there that are listening to this, other hearing healthcare providers, can learn how to really use and implement your book, right? I mean, I've got it right up there on my screen in the background, the 5keys.org. I mean, that is really, I think that's the best place to find you, to learn more about implementing these strategies in your own practice. If you're out there, if you're looking for ways to better communicate, if you're still handing out pamphlets, if you're still handing out papers that aren't being read, 5keys.org is really the place to learn more about this. What I've been curious about is, along the way, has there been any pushback? Have there been things that people maybe didn't understand about what the goal was, didn't understand in the book, that maybe led to some confusion? I mean, I don't know. Are you on version 6 of the book, or is it the exact same book from when we started in 2013?
There have been 2 revisions.
Okay.
That came out, and mostly just updating little small parts. In fact, it probably needs to undergo another revision now that batteries are almost a thing of the past, because I do talk about technology parts in there. Most of the technology is still valid. One thing that I have had a little bit of pushback on both sides, I do talk about loops in the book, and the importance of hearing loops and the telecoil. And I've had some providers say, isn't that kind of an outdated, technology? And I don't believe that it is. And then on the other side, I've had loop advocates say you need to talk about loops more in the book.
Well, yeah, loop advocacy, or should I say, the loop advocates are, yes, they have a strong opinion when it comes to loops. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I found that I can't please everybody. I stopped trying to do that a long time ago. When it comes to a book, it is not easy to have a new version, because I get about 5,000 of them printed at a time, and they're sitting in my garage, and I ship them out. So I'm not going to do anything new until all 5,000 are pushed out.
Of course.
But that is part of what spurred me to do an electronic version of 5 Keys, because that's easy to change and that's easy to update as technology is changing.
And so let me ask you about that. What is new about the virtual version? I think that's how you refer to it, of the 5 Keys, so that practices around the country could get a membership or subscription to be part of your program to help with their patients. And is this something that is it right for every patient, or is it for a certain subset?
So it's actually called the 5 Keys Online Communication Training Program.
Okay.
And it is the information in the book plus more, broken down into bite-sized snippets that are delivered via weekly emails. So it is kind of like a membership. The clinic owner would purchase, the 5 Keys online program. I made it ridiculously inexpensive because I want it to be accessible to everybody. And my coach is always yelling at me about not charging enough for what I'm putting out there. But it is literally $59 per month, and that you can enroll unlimited patients for that. So you can do the math. If you're enroll 10
Dusty, you are not charging enough.
I know. But I don't do this because I'm trying to get rich on it. I do this because I feel like it's something easy. I know that I'm not trying to downplay the value of it, though. It is so valuable, and I priced it so that even small clinics like mine, because I am a very small part-time clinic, but I want to be able to access some of these tools that are out there. And I just can't afford some of the more expensive things that are out there. So
Okay, fair.
really that's my, I'm selling it to myself and I can handle $59 a month. And then if there's a month where you forget to enroll anybody, it's not like you just wasted $500 that month. It's like, oh, well, I'll make sure to enroll some people next month. So it's affordable for everybody. And it is easy. It's fully branded. I think the most exciting thing about it is that it's fully branded to the practice.
That's great.
The practice. So I had this program for a while. We called it the E-Tips, but practices told me we would like this branded to us. And so I figured out a way to do that. It is time consuming process. So it's a couple $100 for the art, like the design fee at the very beginning.
The onboarding, we'll call it.
The onboarding. Yep. But $200 is still reachable for a small practice like mine.
we really got to talk about your prices.
I know we do for sure. I don't know. I it feels good. In my heart, it feels good. And so that's where I come from. But
I completely look, I mean, I love what you're doing and I love your approach, which is I've met a lot of hearing healthcare providers. I don't think I've met any that are in it for the money. I don't think I've met any that are living the lap of luxury.
Right.
Maybe some manufacturer owners, but that's a different story. but definitely not the boots on the ground, the practice owners. I think our collective hearts are huge, and you're definitely part of that and doing the right thing. So I'm half joking when I say let's talk about your prices, because your goal is to make it accessible and affordable for all, and you've certainly done that. So that's great. And the fact that you can customize it is huge. That has definitely been one of the things that I've seen, is that desire for the customization of any marketing material, education material. And I get that, because we're especially now at a point where I don't even think we've yet to even feel the grunt of the force of over-the-counter or direct-to-consumer technology. And so we're at a point where we do need to build our trust, build our authority, and be the independent voice in our community. So kudos to you for acknowledging that and realizing that that's a real need out there.
Yeah, you bet. And I do think that the program can be used even if a patient comes in with something they've bought over the counter. They come in, they still need counseling and rehab. So I'm anticipating, and I've had it happen with people who they'll buy hearing aids on eBay or something, and they come in. And so I do obviously charge them for my services, but I also charge them an auditory rehabilitation fee. It's required. Excellent. If they're going to come to my office. It includes a copy of the book and the online program. Again, I probably don't charge enough for it, but I charge.
I was just about to ask you that, but I figured maybe I shouldn't ask you that.
I charge $100. I like round numbers. I'm a simple person. So, for something that's only costing me, whatever, the books are around $8 a book when you buy them in quantity in bulk. And the online program, if I'm signing people up. So I'm still making a decent amount of profit on it.
Of course. Yeah.
Good education, and my info's all over it. So hopefully they share it with other people.
Oh, absolutely. It's a no-brainer at your practice. That makes perfect sense. Now, are you you threw in a little tidbit there that I don't think I was expecting. So I should have mentioned this earlier. You are the owner, CEO. You run Columbine Hearing Center. Did I get that right?
Columbine Hearing Care. Mm-hmm.
Hearing Care. Okay. The C, I always get screwed up if it's care or center. So that's a part-time. What? Tell me your story there with your private clinic and how that came to be. Because if I did my research correctly, I think you went from provider to owner, and maybe I got that wrong, but tell me your story there.
You got it. Good job. So
okay.
I worked for an ENT for 15 years, and I was the director of audiology for that ENT. And she retired in 2017, and I purchased the audiology side of her practice from her. So I became the owner in 2017. And I do run a very tight ship as a practice owner. I keep I have a very small office. I rent from an executive suite of offices. Okay. Like there's a shared waiting area, so I don't have a receptionist. I just the last year hired my first employee who is an HIS, amazing.
Excellent.
HIS. And so it's just the two of us. And so my overhead is very low. I don't have the pressure of meeting unit requirements, because if I sell 4 hearing aids in a month, I've covered my costs, and everything above that is great. So
great. So I guess I would ask, given the 42 million people who need our help, given that you're in a fairly populated area, is there a need? Is it 5 days a week, or is it just, what does it look like for you?
So
I mean, you said you run a tight ship. So tell me, what does that mean for you?
Really answer your question. I come into the office 2 days a week, and my HIS comes in 2 days a week. We do answer calls and return calls and counsel over the phone 5 days a week. For me, 7 days a week, because I just can't stand a patient waiting all weekend. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So, and we don't do any marketing. It's all word of mouth. So yeah, I don't pay for anything, and I haven't had to.
I think you do marketing.
Well, yes, I do.
But I think what you meant is you're not in the newspaper. You're not doing some of those other things.
Right, exactly.
I hope to goodness you're not giving away free turkeys.
Not giving away free turkeys. No.
Okay. I think I have to make that. I should probably ask that before I bring people on the podcast. I'm not willing to interview anybody who does free turkeys and as a give back for a hearing test. But anyways, I want to ask you something that I'm very intrigued by, because you never know, and I'm sure you've experienced this. Our industry has a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to the hearing instrument specialist. Now, I can make a lot of assumptions about your views just based on the fact that everything you just said about your amazing HIS. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about how you feel about that and what their role is in your practice.
So in my practice, I consider her an equal. She has 20 years of experience as an HIS, has been a business owner, has been a practice owner, and came from a very busy and successful practice in our area. So I almost consider that when it comes to hearing aids, she has probably more experience than I do, because of the volume that she has gone through.
Sure.
So because of that, I give her a lot of leeway, and I consider her as my equal. Now, the patients know her as her first name, and they know me as Dr. Dusty. So there is a difference. The way we do it is I do all the diagnostics, and then I usually kick them over to her for the treatment, and then they come back to me annually for the diagnostics. That feels good. That. Sometimes she'll do it all, and sometimes I'll do it all. It just depends on our scheduling. However, I have interviewed newer HIS people, and was not impressed by their skills, and I would not give them the leeway that I give her. So I think it's just very individual how much experience they have.
Might I ask you, could you not say the same thing about some audiologists, especially maybe some new ones?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. I'm definitely one that is not going to argue about hearing instrument specialists having the ability to do anything with hearing aids. I feel like they're good at what they do once they have the proper experience, just like an audiologist. Now, when it comes to diagnostics and cerumen removal and all the other parts of audiology, of course, I feel like there's a place where this is audiology.
Yes. There are different degrees or different letters after your name that allow you to do different things. I don't think the HIS would feel comfortable being in the OR doing intraoperative monitoring during some sort of surgical intervention or a cochlear implant, or Absolutely. That's not what I would certainly ever suggest. But when it comes to the vast majority of the 42 million, I appreciate your outlook, which is the more of us, at least the way I see it, is the more of us, the better, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've often joked there should be more hearing healthcare practices than there are Starbucks because there's much more of a need. If overnight 10% more people said they wanted help, we would all have a wait list that goes out 6 to 8 months. You'd be working, we'd all be working 7 days a week. It would be out of control. So I think the more hands make for, less of a struggle to get through all of the patients that really do need our help. So I appreciate that outlook, because one of the things that I've noticed in our industry is this talk about the new Medicare Audiology Services Act, if I said it correctly. I kind of follow from afar, but one of the things that struck me was there's so many people that are upset about the HIS and the audiologist having some equivalency when it comes to treating hearing loss, when it comes to working with technology and hearing aids. And I just didn't know if you had a thought on that.
It doesn't bother me. I don't want to be the unpopular person saying that, but I agree with you that there's such a need. And as long as the hearing instrument specialist goes through the proper training and gets the experience, I feel like they're going to know how. I'm sorry, fitting a hearing aid isn't rocket science. The other parts I think the diagnostics take a lot more, of course, medical knowledge and everything that our AUD programs give us. But
yes,
when it comes to popping in the software and doing real ear measurements, those kind of things those are trainable issues. And I don't downplay, I consider, the reason I feel like I'm an equal to my HIS employee is because we do the same things pretty much here. And that's my choice. I've chosen to be a private practice audiologist who does not do advanced diagnostics. So running an audiogram and fitting hearing aids, no, I'm not using my full degree, but it's what I enjoy doing along with the other parts of it. So,
of course, I don't even know. I'm not sure I would agree with that downplay of I'm not using my full degree. I mean, you have your degree, you have an excellent base of knowledge. All of that, without, I think, you even realizing, is going into every conversation you have with every patient. Yes. So absolutely. Can I ask you a little bit more on a personal note? And we'll start to wrap up here. I appreciate all the time that you've given to the listeners. The first thing that strikes me, and I'm sure you get this a lot, you're in Columbine. Have you lived in Columbine your whole life? What has that been like, living with that shadow over Columbine that anybody over the age of probably 35 instantly thinks of what the past, the history that's gone on there?
Mm-hmm. I have lived here. So the town is Littleton, and I did grow. We lived in the district, so my kids would have gone to Columbine High School. We moved a couple of years ago, so now they're not in that district anymore. Our neighbor behind us lost their son at Columbine, so it was that close. It was, we didn't live there when it happened, so we moved into the neighborhood, and it was palpable as just it really impacted the community. And it's a very emotional thing to go to the memorial, which is at a park that I took my kids to all the time. And so we would just go walk around, and it's a very somber experience. And I think probably as a mom, as parents, my husband and I, it really just shook us in making sure that we keep open lines of communication with our kids. That was the biggest takeaway is, gosh, you just never know what is going through these kiddos' heads, and just to be supportive and talk and make sure they feel that they can come to us with anything. It's heartbreaking, but it definitely brought the community together. Columbine Strong is a thing. For sure.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Dr. Dusty, I genuinely appreciate your time. I appreciate you being open and honest, and I appreciate you taking my more personal questions. That is a very telling experience. I certainly echo everything you say about the open lines of communication with your children. I have 3 little ones, and work on that every day with them. So, but I should say, I can't end this on that somber of a note. And so people said to me, Keith, if you're going to do a podcast, you have to ask some fun, uplifting question at the end. And the only one that I could come up with, because my kids and I love movies, is, do you have a favorite movie?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And hopefully it's uplifting, so we can end with the uplifting note.
Yeah, for sure. I would say one of my very favorite movies is Avatar. Isn't
awesome.
That what it's called, with the blue people?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
We watched during the pandemic, we watched that during the shutdown, I should say.
For some reason, the name doesn't sound right to me. Am I saying it? Is that the name?
You said it right. Avatar, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you been on the ride at Disney yet?
No. Is it good?
Okay. Yes, but I get motion sickness, so it's an amazing ride, but I almost lost my lunch afterwards, but that's okay. It was absolutely worth it. So, well, that's great to know. So now we know a little bit more about what's going on in Dusty's head. So Dusty, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I genuinely appreciate all you do. Again, everybody knows the book. I think what's super exciting now is that anybody out there can go to 5keys.org and learn about how to implement this in your practice for a ridiculously low price. So we already established that. Dr. Dusty, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.